Yes. Hey guys, welcome to the Big Blue United podcast. My name is TJ. I'm here with Dan and Colin. We're back with season 5, episode 2. My first one back. You guys did a wonderful job holding it down while I was predisposed, whatever you want to call it, indisposed. Well, anyway, it's good to be back, guys. It was decomposing. It's good to be back. I missed doing this with you guys. I miss seeing you every week. So I'm just thrilled that the season's starting again. And we actually have something of value to talk about, most importantly. But anyway, how you guys doing tonight?
Good.
TJ, you realize this is season 5 of the BB
I know.
Pod Boys?
5 years, man. 5-year Pod Boys.
That's crazy, actually.
Time goes by fast, man. Yeah, we started this before I had a kid, and now my kid is 5. Go figure. She's banging on the door trying to get in here. Wait, Dan looks skeptical.
Riley's only a couple.
Oh no, you're right. It would because there's a year 0. That's a good point. Forgot that's year 0. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, let's just jump into training camp, I guess. Oh, before that, oh my goodness, I forgot the most important thing. Don't forget to follow us, Big Blue United Podcast, at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, BBU Pod Boys with a Z on Twitter. Of course, email Dan. He's barely 40. He's waiting for you. Big Blue United Podcast at gmail.com. And let's just jump into some Lions training camp. 2 practices yesterday and today. Today is Tuesday or Monday. Is it Monday? It's not Tuesday. I don't know. Shit anymore. Against the Lions. Yesterday, Giants looked good. Today, they looked a little worse. But what were you guys reading? What are you thinking? How do you feel about it?
It didn't sound like today was much worse than yesterday. I think they brought the fight, if you will, in the real sense and the proverbial football sense too. I can hear the sounds of the anguish of the couple of boomers who are still watching the NFL and follow the Giants that are just like, well, here's Odell all over again. Here he is. He's back. With Malik Neighbors, I'm talking about specifically. Yeah. And I think it's good to get his sillies out now because I'm sure he got some sort of a talking to by Dable. And I think they're going to have to reel in a lot of that stuff prior to the season because, as you saw on Hard Knocks, TJ, that was a big point of conversation with Dable in those early interviews about his fiery temperament and how he's got to use it for the greater good, but not have him get out of control and hurt the team in the process. So it's going to be a learning thing. So, we'll see how he gets it under control.
I did enjoy him taking on the entire Lions defense. That was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. It started out very silly with him tapping Terran Arnold in the head or whatever.
Yeah.
I think what a huge problem was with this team for a long time and specifically before Dable and Co came in was just the total not empathy, the total just flatness of the team and not caring about anything. I'd much rather a team play like this, get in fights literally every play, than just go through the motions and let their teammates get cheap shotted or whatever. This team needs something, and Dable's teams have fought to the end, even though they should have been out of games and playing above their capabilities. So this is indicative of them being on the same track. So I have no problem with it.
So Dan, do you think that any third down and 12 on the 3-yard line is going to be a reason for the old victory formation at all this year, or is that something that's in the past? Hopefully.
That's never going to happen in the NFL ever.
Ever again.
I mean, there's literally no reason for it.
I know you guys did a lot of Hard Knocks last week, so I'll talk about it sparingly. But one thing I noticed that I really did like is when they did have those 3 receivers in for the same meeting, and they were just like, "What do you tell the quarterback? Throw me the ball, throw me the ball, throw me the ball." And they're like, "F yeah, that's awesome." And there was a lot of moments I think where the answers that were given were not PC and were just really straight up. And I was so appreciative of how the coaching staff was really receptive to those answers. Just how do you deal with losing? I effing hate it. Just straight up real, and I'm happy that we have, coaches and players that, aren't vanilla boring. I mean, other than your quarterback. You actually have some swagger on the team. I know that was something we have touted a lot since Dable took over.
I was unnerved by Shane dropping F-bombs. He doesn't look like a guy that would do that. Dable all day long, but Shane felt a little forced, but all good. Let it rip.
I mean, you're hanging out the fellas all day, every day.
Yep. It's true.
It just happens.
I would have liked an F-bomb from John Mara, to be honest. That would have been a nice little wrinkle. Him trying to be with the boys.
Can I just mention, like, does John Mara sit?
No.
Do you notice that he always just walks in and hovers around and looks real weird, and
it's like a pensive stick.
It's the one scene as they're talking about on draft day when they're all in their suits. It's the only time he's sitting. Well, in the draft room itself, but like I think he's forced. So otherwise, he'll just be like behind you. It'd be like, ah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like the conversations, it just seemed like everyone was just like, man, I can't wait till this guy gets out of here. So keep doing what we have to do.
Pretty much.
But yeah, I mean, back to the Lions. My favorite part, I guess, is probably just how the offensive line was doing, especially today. I watched some clips of some one-on-one drills.
Pockets.
I forget where I was. Pockets. And Illuminor just against Aiden Hutchinson, even though I think he'd had like a couple reps I watched, and they all looked good enough against a guy who's probably going to have upwards of 10 to 15 sacks next year. You would imagine. Yeah. It's just so refreshing. And Runyon had some good snaps one-on-one. And, I was reading that those kind of drills are easier or favor the defense rather. So to kind of see your offensive lineman from a unit who's just absolutely been atrocious for so long, sort of give you just like a glimmer of hope. It made me feel so good. And also it just kind of made me feel like maybe Evan Neal will never be really playing. Maybe we moved on from Evan Neal. What do you guys think about that?
It's possible. I mean, I think they're looking at him as like a total afterthought. If his ankle gets together and he decides to be a team player and maybe get some reps anywhere he can get them, great. If he has to play through this year and that's the end of it, even better. Let's move on from him already. That was a mistake.
This is year 3 for him, right?
Yeah.
I
was going to say that the competency is refreshing.
Yeah.
But as far as Evan Neal goes, I saw a few clips of them questioning Dable about Neal and where he stands, and he's pretty standoffish about it. He's like, he'll play when he can play, and they're like, they pressed him. They're like, wasn't he supposed to be ready for this? Wasn't he near ready at in the offseason camps and everything? And he's like, I don't know what to tell you.
You want to know? I have a hot take on this. I think he's mentally done. I don't think he can handle the pressure in New York. I don't think he can handle the pressure of being a top 10 pick. I think he's underperformed, and I think that he's doing a little Kadarius Toney thing right now and not trying to get in the game, not trying to get into practice.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to abolish the can't handle New York thing. I think just can't handle the NFL.
Yeah,
sure.
Like
fair enough.
We like make that excuse for so many players, and like I don't know. I don't think it matters so much anymore. These players don't care about what our print reporters say. Like their lives are so beyond that.
You think so? I feel like people. I think like if you're an NBA guy, like Kevin Durant is on Twitter still arguing with people who are calling him.
Yeah, but Kevin Durant's like our age though. Like these kids that are like 22, like what do they care what some 52-year-old guy in a polo shirt says?
I think it's even worse if you're that age. You're a lot more vulnerable emotionally to those sort of things. I think growing up with social media too sort of creates a lot of more vulnerability to like things that are written and said about you on the internet rather than what sets you in person. I think that's just like indicative of the times now.
I'm sort of with you, TJ, because they're so about the attention on themselves that anywhere that they can see their names or their pictures or their videos, they're going to immerse themselves so fully that it clouds their brain for the rest of the task at hand. And I feel like the older players, especially the ones they've been through it, they already know what this is all about. They care less. I sort of get where you're coming from, Dan, but I
guess I meant like more like the source. Like
yeah,
they don't care what the Daily News says,
sure.
But they'll care what some Twitch streamer says, or
fair.
I don't know. Like I have a hard time. Like I guess I'm old, or we're all old, but like our points of reference between us and Zoomers that are like in their early 20s are so vastly different. I mean, they don't only watch movies.
Listen, like the consensus in the sports world comes very quickly. and people very much agree with each other on things like very fast. So I think even though you're thinking like, maybe X player doesn't read daily news, like daily news filters down to social media at some point. It filters down to the comments made, which are made by people who basically just, are consuming other people's information, consuming other people's ideas and regurgitating them for the most part. I'm not going to say everybody's like that, but if you spend your time commenting on Instagram, you're probably that.
I think it's interesting. It'll be telling to see what ends up happening. I mean, I said it last week to Dan. He'll likely end up playing as like a swing tackle role eventually, getting a little extra tight end on the goal line situations, that kind of thing, and maybe not much else. And that's if his ankle is even good. It could be that he's just got this bum ass ankle, and that's preventing him from getting on the field.
I mean, I'm hopeful that our new offensive line coach can get something out of him. Mm-hmm. No one's arguing the raw ability that he had coming out of college.
Sure.
It's just inexplicable what happened to the years between then and now.
It's crazy too, because he got drafted so high as part of someone who was coming from a more pro style offense. So, being drafted early, I think he was the second tackle to go in that draft, if I'm not mistaken, after Ikanawu.
Yeah, from North Carolina State.
Iggy Ikanawa. Yeah. Neil was supposed to be the guy who could plug and play, and that couldn't have been further from the truth. Although that class didn't end up being as good as it was with him, Cross, and Icky, as we mentioned before. Neil's the worst of the bunch, but I don't think I've heard too much of the three of them. I think Doris from the year before. Yeah.
Off of Neil, but back to current training camp. I take this with a grain of salt too, but I have a feeling the fighting had something to do with how the Lions maybe overestimated the zest that came out of our boys for these practices. I think they thought they were going to come in and just roll over like they have in the past. They're the much better team than us, at least on paper. And I think the little bit of a fight, not literal, but the fight coming from the team surprised them a little bit, which, going back to what you said, Dan, that's something that this team hasn't really had. And even if we are the same, or we win one or two more games, but we have this grittiness, this will to fight it out and like really make it tough for teams to win, then we're already going in the right direction.
Well, I think our strengths, obviously we're not as well-rounded or as deep as the Lions, but our strengths are right now our pass rush and defensive line with Dexter Lawrence and Burns and Thibodeau. And that's the kind of thing that shows up in these scenarios when you're doing one-on-ones and the pass rushers are able to get after it. You can really expose the team and frustrate an offensive line. And this might be bleeding into the next conversation, but from all reports, like Neighbors is the truth and is unguardable and just roasting everybody. And if you're, it's like you're going under a microscope more than you are in a game, and the fact that like these plays are just getting run over and over again, like back to back to back to back to back to back.
He's catching everything.
He's catching 20 passes on you in a row. Like, tempers are gonna flare. So I don't know. I agree. Like they probably underestimated the Giants, but exceeding expectations as a Giants fan.
We'll take it. I mean, we were all excited about him getting drafted, but I don't think we assumed.
Oh, him specifically. I just meant general. Yeah.
I mean, he was a freak talent and someone who would be really excited about in general. But usually, especially in Giants circumstances, it's been, I don't know, probably since Odell, since there's been an impact right away from a player that was just like, wow, training camp, he's the best player, clearly on both sides.
He's the best. Stifled Odell. Remember, Odell didn't start playing until midway through the season.
Yeah, he had a hamstring injury until halfway through.
Yeah. I mean, he looks like the best player on the offense already. Obviously, it's just practice, but you lose arguably your best player on the offense, and then at a position that doesn't matter, that you could be replaced, and then you gain a guy who's the best player in your offensive position that's really important. Something that the Giants have been lacking forever. And as much as we hate Jones, or I won't say hate, but just don't believe in him. Mm-hmm. There's no way that the offense can be worse than it was last year or the year before. You'd think anyway, if they stay healthy. You'd think that the pieces in place will make this team better. You'd think maybe you might even hear at a training camp that the offense played better than the defense for one practice or two.
Yeah.
I mean, if he just keeps the beard, everything would be fine.
He's going to shave it.
Yeah, he's going to shave it.
Would either of you be surprised if at the end of this season, Neighbors is solidly a top 10 wide receiver?
No.
In the NFL?
No.
Despite quarterback play? You know, like with average quarterback play?
That's the craziest part about that. No, I still think that's a possibility.
I think no one would be surprised by that.
If he can get yards after catch, then the quarterback isn't going to be as important for his stat line. And if he can be open, he looks like he's going to be open. And I think that the Giants are going to have what seems to be a good core of pass catchers and dudes that really complement each other. I think as well. I think actually this is the most confident I felt in the receiving group since Odell has been on the team. I think as well as maybe the offensive line since, we won the last Super Bowl, maybe.
Even the Odell years, that wide receiver room wasn't that great. It was him and some mediocre guys around him.
Ruben Randall.
Second round pick out of LSU, right?
Yeah, right. That was fun. I want to say something about just what, and this might be, tell me if it's just the camera angles, bad training camp camera angles or anything like that, or maybe it's just the fact that he is already so good. Does it look like his route running is he looks slow and yet he's past everybody? It's the weirdest thing. He doesn't even look like it's that crisp, but all of a sudden there's no one around him anymore.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. Yeah,
he just has it all, man. He's got the whole skill set. I mean, if it wasn't for Marvin Harrison, he would definitely have been the first wide receiver off the board like any other draft.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying not to do what I did last year and really get my hopes up, but it's been fun to see, especially the offensive line look better and have a pass catching unit that looks better. But it all comes down to your quarterback, doesn't it?
I was going to also say that the turf monster hasn't showed up yet either.
Oh, that's true. Well, there's new turf this year. Let's see if that changes anything.
Yeah. Well, what about who's what was the brand of the lead pipe? Have they let that out yet?
Lead pipes. What's the lead pipe company sponsoring the Giants?
We won't go there yet until we have to. I guess Azudu is the first guy to get that right to the knee.
Yeah, I mean the injuries haven't been terrible.
Knock
Obviously,
on all the wood. Wait, did they say what happened to him?
JMS is.
I don't know what happened to him, Colin. Holmes is out. Who else is out today? I have it written down. John Michael Schmitz. He's coming back. Jalen Mills, Boogie Basham got carted off today, which is a hit for your pass rush since Aziz Ujulari has looked mostly like trash for training camp. But I think JMS is the one that is really hurting this team the most, not being out there.
Van Rotner, however you pronounce it, he should not be signed and thrown straight into center. That is awful. That is such I forgot who it was. I think it was El Jefe or something. It's just what a Giants thing to do. It's oh, you want to be a guard for this team? Nope, sorry, you're center now. Sorry.
Well, hopefully he's not Van Rotten at it.
Well, Carmen, whatever his name is, the offensive line coach, apparently
Brasillo?
Yeah, is it Brasillo? That's how you pronounce it?
That's the most I can give you. I'm not sure if that's right.
He seems to think, that's not a problem. I mean, I think he's had one game in his career where he's played center, but he's like an interior lineman, and nowadays it seems that you can slide all over the place. It used to not be that way back in the day, but I think they train these guys to play multiple positions all the time. In the school of David Deal, offensive lineman, except he didn't play center. So that's wrong. I said the wrong thing. Never mind.
Dude's 34. He's got experience in presumably several systems in the NFL.
And calling blocks, yeah.
Hopefully he can jump in and, I'm sure they wouldn't have signed him if he didn't have the interior flexibility, especially considering, the rest of the roster and the depth at the offensive line, which, hopefully will presumably be better. I don't know. I have to temper my expectations because I've been getting too excited. And
You're allowed. You are allowed.
I know. I just I don't want to end up like
self-preservation.
Last year where I was picking Daniel Jones in fantasy as my number one quarterback, and then thinking that the Giants were gonna win games and like week 1 happened, and I was just like, oh, I'm glad I just spent the last 3 months getting excited to go 6-10 again.
I don't know if you recall. I made Steph find Steph, my wife, for all of you listening out there. Made her find someone to go to a Death Cab for Cutie concert in New Haven because I had to go to week 1 with my father, and I really, really wish I had foresight on that one, because that would have been a good concert to go to. But, you live and you learn.
Yeah, almost any concert would have been better than that.
Yeah, I would have saw Corey Feldman or something. I wouldn't care.
You see that guitar solo that was online last week?
Not a guitar solo. He's just going. He's just got a button to.
That was more melodic than whatever he was doing.
Yeah, I know. The best part is someone made a video. Total tangent here. Someone made a video of it, like making fun of him, and then he comments. He's just like, "The joke's on you. You don't even realize that's from a song called The Joke. I'm just joking." It's like, no, man, you suck.
You definitely suck. Yeah.
I mean, how many times have you said something like, it's the most typical thing, you've done something stupid, you're just like, I was just joking.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it.
All right, let me ask you guys. And Dan, you sent that Good Morning Football this morning. So yeah. I did. I just while I was watching it, I think the most important thing was just like, how important is this year for Shane and Dable? And how short of a string do you think they're on right now?
You're asking us this?
Yeah, I'm asking you guys this. No, I'm asking the listeners.
Well, I mean,
write Dan an email, and then we'll wait for it.
I thought it was rhetorical, and that was like you were setting it up as if that was what was being talked about on the.
I mean, they like got to that point when it spurred the thought in me of asking you guys this question. I guess I should have rephrased.
It's definitely important. They need to show improvement. But I don't think it's like if they fail to make the playoffs, their job is going to be on the line.
I agree.
What's the win threshold, do you think?
I don't know. I mean,
over 7?
I mean, like, league consensus is that they're a bottom 5 team in the NFL. I don't think there's like many analysts that like peg them much higher than that, because QB play is bad. Offensive line has not played together. It's all new entities. Like, the defense has, an unproven second. There's nothing on paper that would indicate they should be good besides our like internal optimism as fans and, being just totally absorbed in it. So if you take like an outsider perspective, there's no expectations for this team. I think it boils down to is has Mara bought in to Dable and Shane, and I think he has, based on the stuff we saw in Hard Knocks. I think he understands they were, a razor's edge away from drafting a rookie quarterback. And he was okay with that, which means he trusts the franchise in these guys' hands. And if they were that close to drafting a quarterback, he knows they don't necessarily believe in their franchise quarterback that they have now. So anything that they get that's positive out of this year, I think will be good. And I'd be hard pressed unless they, win one game this year to see them get canned, or unless it's just a huge, if they regress more than last year, that becomes a question. But I think if they have the same exact season to a degree, maybe they show a little bit more play, like beat a team that's good, then they're fine.
Funny, going back to our former conversation about social media, I'm going to throw this out there. John Mara is the kind of guy that reads all the press clippings. He can't stop reading about it. So what I mean by that is he knows that there are people being like, well, it's the Giants. They go every 2 seasons, 3 seasons, and they get rid of their whole front house. John's just like, no, I don't think this time. I actually have to try to do something different because it hasn't been working in the last 6 years or 12 years, if you will. So I think he's going to give him a little bit more of a leash, because I think there's been a conversation where Shane's just like, I don't want to badmouth people that worked here in the past, but your former GM really put this whole thing in the shitter big time, and I got to dig ourselves out of it. So I think that was a conversation that was had. So yeah, I think they'll, even if it ends up being the exact same record as last year, I think they stick around.
Just to add to this, Ramos sent me a podcast clip from the Greg Rosenthal podcast.
Okay.
He does a NFL Daily, and he let this little tidbit drop. They were talking about Hard Knocks and a conversation he was having with other sort of NFL insiders, reporters, people that like know what goes on behind the scenes. And the question was sort of, what we've been talking about a lot is the level of staging of those conversations, how in depth are the conversations they're having? Like, certainly it must be deeper than Dable being like, hey, he's got ranked XYZ and PFF. Like, let's definitely sign the guy.
Yeah.
And then so basically that was a question that these insiders were posing, and someone connected to the team said, no, that's pretty much the level of depth that a lot of these conversations in the Giants front office is. And that sort of knee-jerk reaction is like, no way. There's no chance in hell that it's that surface level, that shallow. But then Mike's like, it's football, it's not rocket science. But I just like, I don't know. I mean, there are certain things that happen where that make me think they're very reactionary and but they've also drafted much better than their predecessor, which I guess is hard not to do. But it sparks like a tinge of doubt. Like, I think all three of us have been pretty steadfast in our convictions that Shane has got like a really clear vision for this team and a really sort of modern and smart way to go about building it. You can also start looking at it, how we're drafting for need rather than value consistently, how, we're filling holes rather than getting the best player available. Because, when your team is as bad as we are, we can actually get best player available because everywhere's a hole. You can fix the offensive line other ways, or which we have been doing. But I don't know. It's just something to consider if you just, I think it's worth, questioning a bit. But obviously I don't think we're in a good spot, and I feel confident with the front office. Like, I think they're going to make the right decisions.
Well, it's funny you bring this up because another thing when I was watching Hard Knocks is I felt like it made me feel smarter than I actually was.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Maybe these guys, all the nepotism in the Giants front office, there's still like tons of Mara cousins and nephews and nieces like all over the place that have just been there forever.
It's just like better, give more credit to like NFL Films for not overcomplicating the process for us rather than us watching it and being like, I could do this,
Well,
yeah. I mean, I think you could have. I mean, maybe this is more for people like less of a general audience, but I think they could have taken us into sort of like the deep analysis that we suppose is happening without giving any proprietary information or systems or formulas or, with blurring the screens and just saying like, we run like X amount of like calculations or stats. Like, we value we value these 5 stats above these 5, and it's progressed this down this much. Our scouts do this. Like, they don't even tell you what the scouts do. They just say like, we're scouts, and they show them in a room talking, having fun. They don't say like how many games they go to, how many coaches they talk to, how many players they talk to.
Yeah, it's very service level.
They're never going to do that because they're too paranoid. Even if, and yes,
they put up their whole draft board with the ratings. What do you mean they're too paranoid? They didn't have enough due diligence to make sure we didn't give away our rating system.
I mean, what you're asking for is to go in depth on why the rating system applies to all the players.
No, I'm saying in generalities. I'm not saying like, but just give the viewer a sense that there's like a highly structured system of evaluation.
The Giants pretend like they're the Patriots of the past, and they think they're too smart and they can't let anything out. That's what it comes down to. It's like,
but then they let all sorts of other stuff out.
Well, maybe they didn't think it was important. Maybe it was not. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. I mean, I think there was tons of film from this whole session, and I'd say, I don't know, 5% of what was actually recorded was used on this show. I think it was a heavy editing. Nope, not showing that. Not showing that. It was like
Shane said the Giants had input on the editing, but not final say. So I think there probably was a little more than they would have wanted. I mean, I'm sure as a football team, you don't want it at all. But the one thing that really made me question the process is when they did that, like, let's look at the past 10 years of quarterbacks. And they're like saying who's hits and misses. Yeah. And misses, among the misses were Jared Goff and Baker Mayfield. And among the hits were Daniel Jones. And I'm just like, are they just doing this for for our benefit as Giants fans watching this, or is this actually how they're evaluating?
I remember when they flashed it on the screen. Yeah, I couldn't really make sense of that because they had certain guys highlighted that were, top 10 guys, like really good guys, and other guys highlighted that were like, I'm not sure what the hell I was looking at there.
Well, they might. I think what they were looking at was like, I know this is a silly thing. Maybe it's not silly in the whole grand scheme because obviously Goff ended up.
And was that their stuff or was that HBO's?
That's a good question. I wonder if you're a person. Presumably, you're going to be either a football fan or a Giants fan. You're going to presumably probably more Giants fans than anybody watching this. And maybe people don't want to see that they missed on their quarterback that hasn't proved himself yet in year 6, 7, 8, whatever it's going to be.
I think it was just simply who ended up hitting on the team they were drafted by. Doesn't matter if they went on and had success elsewhere. It was because if we drafted a QB and we didn't make it work, and then all of a sudden that guy goes somewhere else and starts ripping it up, we still fail.
I wonder if it was. I was thinking like, what was that based upon? And like, is it just based upon if he's still with the team? And then I think towards the end, Kenny Pickett is Kenny Pickett still with the Steelers? He's like a third string quarterback. Am I correct? Behind Fields and
no,
or did they drop
Pickett? No, he's in the Eagles.
Oh, okay. So maybe it was guys that just weren't on the original team that they were drafted by. If that's the case, then that makes sense. But I could have sworn there was something in there that made me feel like it was just like a hit or miss sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, in tandem with that, and it's just simply hit the team who drafted, and I'm probably moving on. But yeah.
Either case, I guess my takeaway is I have ultimately less confidence in the front office than I did before watching Hard Knocks.
Oh, I don't feel that way.
I think I still felt like it was fine, but I thought there was more to it than I was.
There is, man.
Even then it was implied by Hard Knocks. I knew they weren't going to show much, but I don't know. I
mean, what I think the hard job is being a scout and going there and writing up reports, hundreds of reports on hundreds of different players, and then you're Joe Shane and why am I breaking on Brandon Bowers? You're going through hundreds and hundreds of players trying to assimilate all this information, and then you see things you like from your scouts, and you have to go watch the tape. I think it's more just being able to just be redundant and continue to watch these things and just sort of see the small differentiations between certain guys that you like better, or maybe things that they'll fit in your system that you see just a couple times on tape more than like another guy does a couple times on tape. Because really, what else do you have to evaluate other than the opinions of your scouts and sort of the things you watch with your own eyes? So I mean, I'm assuming that the microcosm of what they showed us, maybe it's less complicated all around, but I think the sheer volume of what you're doing has to be hard to. Yeah. And I think ultimately, what it really comes down to is that these guys get paid a lot of money, and NFL GMs, they don't last because they make mistakes, and everybody wants results. And NFL is very much, what have you done for me lately, league.
I think you have a point with the volume aspect of things. I mean, and that's what you would have wanted to see, Dan, was an example of them pouring over one player and getting the scouts in the room and having their takes and then putting it through the machine and their analytics. Yeah,
I just like to see the depth of it more than just it was a lot of the commentary around the players was the level of the old scouts and Moneyball. They could have had give us a glimpse maybe of a little bit of those conversations, withholding the player's name, and just give a flavor of the depth of analysis. I will say Brandon Brown, I think, came across the best in the front office, at least for me. I felt like he had the right convictions. He was looking at things the way you like to see it. Maybe that's because it comes from the Eagles. I don't think he's going to be, an assistant GM for long. But I'm really glad that he's on the Giants, and he seemed to be the one that was we need a quarterback, and there's no way around it.
Not to defend them at all, but I mean, this is a Hollywood type production, and I think there's a level of the HBO people being yeah, this is all really football stuff, but we can't get too complicated because a bunch of idiots are watching this. So that might be part of it too.
Yeah, no, I know.
Just saying.
But if it was in a Hollywood movie that is ultra successful, I think.
I don't know. Reading the comments of people being get Shane out of here. This is why we're so bad.
Oh,
that's
no.
Stupid too.
Yeah,
and I saw that way too much. I'm just really? That's what you get. Like, I'm surprised you say you feel less.
I'm not out on him as a GM. I wasn't as impressed as I thought I'd be.
This to me just equates to, people who say that don't like him because he didn't draft their favorite player, the star player on the Giants, Daniel Jones.
Yep. Wow.
Who's, perennially the greatest player on this team, even though he shows shit.
It's the Saquon haters is the ones that want Shane out. That's like the major...
the Saquon lovers.
The lovers, excuse me. The Saquon stands. Yeah.
The people that like, no matter who it is, like whoever puts
you got rid of the best player on the offense
you love him and think he's the best player in the NFL. Just
the only reason we won any games at all was this guy.
I hate that line.
Okay,
so
cool.
Yeah, sure, dude.
That's crazy. Like, I'm curious, like what someone's mind goes through, like watching the game and thinking that that's the impact that Saquon Barkley had on the Giants. Was that if he wasn't in the game, they would never have won a game?
Yeah.
And they're the same idiots that they're going to go and see him have a bunch of really good games behind one of the best offensive lines in the league and be like, see, why'd we let him go?
I mean, 100%. I mean, it's just so unnecessary. The Eagles overspent. The only reason the Eagles were able to do that is because they drafted so well. They have so many young players who are exceedingly good on rookie contracts that they have the cap space to have the luxury of paying a player that much money.
Yeah.
So I still think it was a dumb move by Howie Roseman, maybe the worst move Howie Roseman has made as GM of the Eagles. But he's gonna have over 1,000 yards rushing next year, probably 1,500 from scrimmage and 10 touchdowns, and he's gonna be a productive player for the Eagles. I think that the Giants' backfield, if the offensive line looks at half as good as it does in training camp at the moment, then between Singletary and whoever else, Eric Gray, if he becomes the primary backup, should probably have similar numbers. As
Tyron
a committee.
No, Turbo Miller, baby. I'm on the way.
Tracy's number 2 right now, according to all camp reports.
Yeah, that does seem to be the case. I don't know. Gray's on the outside looking in at this point.
I mean, I just saw the unofficial depth chart they released a couple days ago. They had Eric Gray as the number 2 on there. That's what I'm going off of.
Probably for the preseason.
Yeah, sure. Whatever it is.
Anyway.
Who I haven't heard anything is like Andrew Phillips. Have you heard any
Yes.
news?
He's slotted in as the starting nickel.
Yeah, I saw that, and I'm just like, I really wasn't hearing so much about him during camp.
Oh, yeah.
But he's been playing well?
Yeah.
Constantly.
Wonderful. I love
that. He's pissing everybody off on the Lions. They're like, there was a quote that he said, I don't know, I guess it was Amon-Ra, whatever his name is, St. Brown was getting in his face and like trying to put his hands in his face. And he's like, I get why he's pissed off. I'm a rookie and I clamped him down. I was like, well, love to see that.
Yeah.
Love to. I'm paraphrasing. It's good. It's great. I mean, we especially with Darnay Holmes going down, not that he's been the greatest nickel for the last couple of years. He's been fairly consistently playing. That doesn't mean anything, but we needed someone to have a little bit of chutzpah in that spot. And it's good to see that. So Nick McLeod is still making his presence known too, which is cool. Between that and the safety situation, it's not great, but it's better than I thought it would be at this point.
I'm hoping that competition at CB2 really brings out the best in McLeod and Flott.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure.
I think Banks is your number 1 cornerback. That's not a question. I don't think. Yeah. I think number 2 cornerback was really the position that they didn't address at all.
Yeah.
Either in the draft or through free agency. So to see 2 guys who have been on the team for a couple of years kind of step up and battle each other is sort of fun. I don't know how that translates to actually on the field next year, but for now in practice, it's been enjoyable just to see like maybe that position won't be as much of a liability as you might have thought going into training camp.
Especially with the pass rush, if it ends up being what it needs to be, then that makes that less of a thing. And I think they're banking on that.
Apparently Brian Burns has just been absolutely unstoppable.
Yeah.
So, as advertised. And, I was just kind of thinking this when I was watching Hard Knocks too, like even if the only thing that's going to make a better move on Shane's resume than that move is if like he gets a starting quarterback and doesn't have to give up anything for it, or like a really top tier quarterback. But I think that's probably the best move he'll make as a GM. He absolutely fleeced the Panthers. I don't understand how that actually happened.
Well, I'm telling you, I think Dan Morgan is an idiot. He just got hit in the head too many times. That's the problem. But there's a bunch of defensive back names that are still floating around out there. I think that teams, including our own, are waiting to see how this preseason shakes out. And you'll probably see us sign somebody. Maybe not someone on that top of the list, but like probably some mid-level guy that's just looking for a 1 year.
They've picked up 3 quarterbacks since the start of training camp. So obviously they think they still need help at the position. Yep. Obviously with cutting Aaron Robinson, get some fresh blood in there.
Well, that was long overdue. That needed to happen. Hey, we'd be remiss not to mention. I mean, what's with hard Dan Jones getting into fights himself? What's that about?
Whatever. Fights. Yeah, he's like I gotta keep out for my guy. I'm like, the offensive line's supposed to protect you, dude. Let them do their job.
I mean, I'm not gonna crap on. I'll crap on him for a lot of things. It's not gonna be that. It's the first sign of life that he's shown since he's been drafted.
I mean, he's always been tough. That's something I think we've always given him amongst anything. Is that he's a tough dude.
I guess
he's a moron. He can't play football. He sucks. He can't understand a modern offense. But he's tough dude. He tries.
Yeah.
He puts his body on the line, though.
And then he gets broken.
Yeah. Can I make a couple Brian Dable observations?
Sure.
That I just had. My favorite moment in all of Hard Knocks was when they unveiled those atrocious throwback uniforms, and everyone's like, "Yeah, the uniform's great." And Dable's just like, you can just tell. I looked at his face like, "That sucks balls. That's the worst thing I ever saw."
They're playing one game with it, and it's the first, and they get it out of the way.
I just thought his face was hilarious. And number 2, why did his body shrink but his head stayed the same size?
He lost some fat under the jowls there. It's lessened.
I swear, is like from the first episode of Hard Knocks to the last episode, his head is the same size, but he just deflated. Yeah. It's kind of interesting. Did you guys talk about Ozempic last week or?
I think we in passing. No, we didn't talk about him being skinny at all.
Maybe. I don't think we talked about Ozempic specifically.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, that's obvious, right?
Yeah, it had to be it.
It's not Pilates. It's Ozempic.
No.
Let's just be real.
He's not running.
So I wanted to ask you guys, I know we're not physicians here, but should I go on a diet and exercise or just get a little fatter and then go on Ozempic? What do you guys think?
Exercise, please.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but you know what?
Losers.
You just gotta wait for Ozempic. You gotta make sure it is the wonder drug that it is, and not some horrible side effect.
Yeah.
I've never been the kind of guy to be wary of sort of drugs to put in my body. So
that's true.
Just take a chance. Take a chance, man.
Against the brand for sure.
I mean, hey, all it takes is we were talking about it last week. All it takes is wait until it gets a little less atrocious hot-wise out. And you can walk to and from work, and that's a start. And then when you start getting used to that and you enjoy that, then you build from there.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing that for years, and I just recently purchased a motor vehicle, so now I am driving.
So TJ bought a car. I asked him to drive me to Pennsylvania to go to a bachelor party with some college buddies, and then I drove his car there and back.
He certainly did, because Colin loves driving, and I don't like driving, so it worked out perfectly.
That works great.
Yeah, it was fine. And also, what was helpful was that I respect Colin's opinion and a lot about cars. So when Colin was driving my car and saying all these nice things about it, it made me feel really good about my purchase. So that was also a good benefit.
The 2008 Subaru Forester.
That's it.
Awesome.
Old ass car. It's great. Love it.
It feels great. It's wonderful.
And I just realized I have a 6 CD changer in there. I just saw it the other day.
Very nice.
So I got my CD book from high school, Dan. I've been playing all.
I would love a CD player in my car. I would love that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Should we touch on anything else tonight, guys? You want to talk about anything?
Preseason starting this week on Thursday. Let's see if it doesn't pour the entire time like it is right now. Going with my dad. He texted me already. He's just like, I got some new ponchos. This was Monday morning at 7:30. I'm like, okay, Dad, I got ponchos too. I understand that you're staring at the Weather Channel all day long, and that's what you do. But yeah, I'm ready for preseason.
I'm just happy that your dad. How old's your dad?
He's 73.
73 years old, still can get excited about things.
Well,
if it's young man,
if it's the weather, then great. It's something. I'm happy about that.
He's excited about going to the Giants game and wearing a poncho.
Yeah, well, we have our own scouting sessions. That's how we've treated these the last couple of years. We almost intentionally enjoy the second half when we're seeing the people that nobody gives a crap about. So that's like, you got to see what the dredges of the roster is going to look like.
The deep cuts.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you got the Victor Cruzes of the world showing up. So
it's when you flip the record over and, the B side's better than the A side. You got some action going on.
Yeah. Nice added bonus.
Is that a good metaphor? Maybe?
Yeah, I think so. Because you're expecting the singles on the A to be the best. Then you're like, oh, what's this deep track? This deep cut over here is actually kind of cool.
I hope someone who's 20 in their 20s is listening to this right now, and they're like, "What the fuck is a B-side?"
No, vinyl's huge. Vinyl's huge again. So
is it?
The hipsters, oh yeah, the hipsters love it.
I wouldn't know. I don't know.
Hipsters like 10 years ago loved it. Now I think it's probably like get a CD because that's the highest fidelity audio you can get,
or cassettes because you're an idiot.
Yeah.
I hope CDs come back now that I own a 2008 car. So
exactly.
Never got rid of any of mine for the most part, so I'm ready.
Yeah, I mean, there's some fantastic mixes, Dan. I should mention this really funny one where I had the CD in my car. It was just called Charlie Everywhere Demos. And then Colin and I put the CD in. And we're like, oh, it's Fantagram. And then we just looked it up. And apparently I have Fantagram's first demo before they were called Fantagram.
Yeah.
Go figure.
And it's good.
So cool.
Sounds great.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of the songs are straight off. They didn't even re-record them. They're just straight on the album.
Yeah.
It's funny. Anyway, guys, thank you for listening tonight. Please follow us at Big Blue United at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Follow us, BBU Pod Boys with the Z on Twitter. And, you can email Dan, bigblueunitedpodcast@gmail.com. Give him your thoughts. He's waiting for you. Have a good night, guys. Thank you for listening.
Listen to Corey Feldman.
Yeah.